Hello friends, this is Chris Orwig and welcome to another tutorial. In this tutorial, I want to show you how you can change the sky in a photograph. Here in the portrait on the left, you can see that the sky was completely white, yet the day before I captured this image with some nice clouds, blue sky. I want to use this sky in this photograph. How do we do that? Well, the first thing we do, as you can see here, is arrange the photograph. So I went to arrange, I have two up vertical, so they're side by side. Grab the move tool and I'll click into the image with the sky and then just click, drag, and drop. Next, press F to go to full screen mode. So here we can see we have the sky above the background. I want to reverse that, so I'll unlock the background layer. I'll go ahead and name this one Surfer and double click to name the other layer Sky. Now to reorder layers, just click and drag. That reorders the layer stack. And before we get too carried away with advanced selections and correcting those selections, one of the ways that you can test things out, especially if you have a lot of white in the sky like this, is to do advanced blending. You access that by double-clicking the layer. It opens up your blending options, and here you have the advanced blending. If you go to this layer and take the whites down, you can see how it removes the whites from the image. Here I'll click OK. Now the results aren't great, but it's giving me a preview. It's telling me, hey, will this work? Yeah, I think so. I think that'll be cool. We can click into the sky layer. We can kind of reposition it and say, yeah, this is going to be good. The problem with this approach is that it also punched holes anywhere else where it was bright white, the other sand, on the subject. So I need to select the sky and remove it in a more intelligent way, right? The way that we do that is go back, double click the layer, and then just bring the slider all the way back up. Now there are times where you can blend a sky together with these sliders. I just want to point that out while I'm here. If you hold down the Option key on a Mac, Alt on Windows, you can split these two, and sometimes you can find a nice combination where you get a good version of the sky and it works in that way. Or you bring this down to just the right spot and do some other masking. So sometimes that will work, but not always. So just want to highlight that. All right, well, let's go back to work. For me, I'm just using this as a preview. Well, is this a good idea? I've decided yes. Next step, press the W key for quick select. And with the quick select tool, what I want to do is change my brush size, right bracket key, and just click and drag over the sky. Then zoom in. And if there are any problem areas, like right here, I'll go ahead and make my brush a little smaller and make sure that her arm isn't part of the selection. I'm just selecting the sky right now. And I think for the most part, we have a good selection here. Let me just add a little bit more of the hair into this part area, and then we'll fix that up later once we get to select and mask. Okay, next step is to go to select and mask. When we get there, we're going to see that we have the opposite of what we want selected, but I want to show you how we can fix that. So go to select and mask. Inside of this, you want to make sure you're viewing this on layers. And when we view this on layers, we see that, yeah, okay, this is weird. I have the bad sky plus the part of the image I don't want to have. But if you scroll down, there's a button called invert, and that will fix the problem. And so if ever you make that mistake, just go to the bottom here in this menu, hit invert, and that will fix the issue. Okay, next we need to zoom in. So let's zoom in on the image, and we need to use our Refine Edge tool. And with this tool, I'm going to go ahead and just paint over these areas to try to add more blending. And this tool really is kind of magical in the way that it helps us to work with areas where we have a little bit of transparency like we have here. And you just want to make sure your crosshairs are painting on the area that is, the area you want to get rid of. And then it looks like my shoulder disappeared over here. So I'm going to go ahead and paint that in a little bit too. And then use the minus icon. I might need to paint this in when we get back out of here because the shoulder, that's not that great of a line there, but I'll fix that later. Another thing to try when you're working with this technique is Decontaminate Colors. Sometimes this can lead to better results, sometimes worse, but if we zoom in, so you can see this here, zooming in past 100% here, you can kind of see how it helped to kind of fix those edges a little bit. Now, if you see more white areas, just make sure you have that brush and the plus icon for this one, and make sure the plus is covering the white areas or whatever color it is in the background that you're trying to get rid of. And I'm just clicking and a couple times over these areas, and this is helping me to get a little bit better results on the hair. And that really is crazy, amazing. What a good job it does with that. Okay, well now we have this. Next thing I notice is that the subject looks good. Horizon line doesn't. So I'll show you how to fix that. Here we click OK to go ahead and apply this, and I'll just apply this as a new layer with a layer mask. Click OK. This gives us our new layer right here. Remember I said we had the shoulder issue we needed to fix, so click into the mask, this one right here, grab brush, and I'll go ahead and paint with white. Nice small brush, no hardness, 100% opacity. And if I paint with white, what it will do is it will add more of the shoulder. Tap the X key, that allows me to paint with black, and then I'll paint away. There's kind of a strange little edge there, that one. Now, when it comes to edges, as I mentioned, there's an issue where this horizon line edge, it's a little bit too cut out. How do we fix that? Because I want to soften that, but I want to keep all these edges as is. So what we're going to do is make sure we click into the mask. The little white brackets show us where we are. So we click into the mask, grab the lasso tool, and with the lasso tool, we're going to make a selection around all of this. So just go around here. It can be pretty rough, so I'm just making my way around here. And what we're going to do is modify this part of the mask, not the image. So I'm on the mask right now. And we're going to modify it with two steps. One is using a filter called minimum. Another one is with a filter Gaussian blur. So let me show you the first filter. Filter, other, and minimum. Also, I want to point out, if ever you do this technique and it does the opposite of what you want, just try the other one. But what minimum does is it minimizes our white area in our mask. So if we take a look at this, as I increase this, can you see how it's kind of chopping down that part of the mask? So what I'm going to do is just take this in just a little bit and then blur it out. So I take it in first, then I'll go to filter, blur, and Gaussian blur. And then the softening effect is the one which allows me to have kind of a softer edge. And I learned this from a friend who does compositing because it kind of blurs better into the background in that way. And then click OK. And this works for all kinds of techniques besides replacing skies, but it's a perfect chance to illustrate it. Let me show it to you one more time. Click into the mask, grab the lasso tool. With the lasso tool, make a rough selection. Doesn't matter how precise or how big, just rough selection around the area that you want to work on. And then we go to filter, other, minimum. This just trims a little bit off of that. And so we just need to trim just a hair off of that. Click OK. And when you trim it off, it gives you the space to be able to then blur it back. So that's why we have to do that. Filter blur, Gaussian blur. And then we can add the blur amount, creates a softer edge, a little less cardboard cutout look. And with that, we have accomplished the task of putting in a new sky. And the great thing about this is the sky is on a separate layer here, right? So we could use the move tool if we needed to reposition it or free transform it or experiment with different ways that we want to use that. Maybe something like that is kind of cool. All right, well, from here, of course, we could make other adjustments, color and tone. But for the sake of this tutorial, we have accomplished the task. And I hope you picked up some valuable tips and techniques along the way. And thanks so much for joining me in this tutorial. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye for now.